I recently raced the Enduro World Series in Finale Ligure, so I'm going to talk you through some bike setup tips, how my bike performs, if I would change anything in hindsight, and the toll it's taken on my bike. Firstly, I'll talk you through the changes I've done from the stock Scott Ransom, so really not many of those. I changed the tyres. Well, our tyre partner here at GmbN is Continental, and my tyre of choice is their Baron. It's quite an aggressive tyre. You see the knobs are really big, quite well spaced, and I find that works really well in loose conditions. That was my choice for Finale Ligure. I've been there a few times, so I'm quite well aware of the type of trails we're going to ride. A lot of loose dust up there, actually. I also put a cush core system into that rear tyre, so that is a tyre insert. So really for me it was all about trying to prevent punctures. I can be really heavy on rear tyres, especially when I'm riding flat pedals. I don't really pick up my back wheel too well. So I knew that I was more likely to get a rear tyre puncture than anything else. So you do compromise a little bit on weight. And talking to some of the pros there at the weekend, some of them just choose to run downhill tyres, so the dual ply heavyweight tyres. I'm not running those. The Barons are still single ply. They do have that apex sidewall and protection, so they're relatively tough, but they're by no means a downhill tyre. So nice and light still, but I knew that I'd need something in that rear, and that is a cush core. So I was happy with my tyre choice. These weigh in at about 1,000 grams, the 29er version, and a downhill tyre is more like 1,300, so not too bad weight-wise, and you add about 260 grams for that cush core. I know riders like Richie Rude runs one in the rear most of the time, and front and rear for those really rough trails. 29er as well, this bike I chose to run. I think for me, I talked about this in the video, I think it works really well. I have done a check on Samuel's pro bike, and I was really surprised at those Michelin tyres he runs. Couldn't believe how soft they were, the actual rubber compound, and how gnarly. They're like proper downhill tyres. So loads of grip, yes, but for me that would seem like quite hard work to pedal around. Lots of rolling resistance on those tyres. So to actually get around that big day, those transitions, probably out of my league. So I find that these Barons actually do roll really well. So this is more my sort of tyre for that type of riding. Yes, probably not quite as grippy, but for me, probably my choice of a better all-round tyre. Tyre pressures, again, I went pretty hard here. I did that bike check on Sam's bike. Couldn't believe how hard his tyres were just from that squeeze test. My hands, really didn't squeeze in at all, so super hard. I decided I was going to follow Samuel's lead and go too hard, basically, just to make sure, or try and make sure I didn't get any punctures. So both tubeless, of course, tubeless front, tubeless and cush core rear. And I took one spare tube with me, used this really cool backcountry strap just to strap a tube, but also one of those plug kits. So I actually loaded up, give you a closer look at that. I loaded up the tool with one of the plugs in it ready, so if I got a puncture or I ripped my tyre, I can just jump off the bike, wang it in there, pull the tool back out, and get away, hopefully not losing any time. It's one of those things you'd have to decide, is it worth doing on the stage, or do you try and ride out the bike, get through the end of the stage and then try and fix it. But it was there just in case I need it, and again, only one tube, so if I did get a puncture, it would then have been pretty risky for the rest of the race. I was impressed with the cush core on the rear, and it's not all about trying to prevent flats. It actually does give you some of that damping because you've got quite a big bit of foam in there. The one thing I was worried about is if you puncture, they're really hard to get those tyres off. I couldn't believe how hard it was to get it on. So to get it off in a race scenario, I don't think it'd happen. So you're going to rely on that plug, and if that plug doesn't work, I think your race is probably going to be over. But it worked well for me, and I didn't get any punctures all week. I chose to run flat pedals. I don't know if you saw that in those build-up videos where I was trying to decide which was faster for me, and I was really happy with that decision as well. Definitely had my foot off quite a lot for me on some of those big loose switchbacks on stages 2 and 4. I did a lot of that. So really happy with that. Running those Northwave shoes as well, those new ones, which were super grippy. Again, on that Sam Hill Pro Bike check, I was impressed by how long his pins were, which I think maybe I'll try that in the future. I didn't wind these out at all, but really I didn't lose any grip anywhere, but I'm definitely keen to try running those pins a bit further out. Suspension wise, after looking at some of the videos, actually someone commented on it. Well, you can see my fork, even now, on that rubber ring hasn't pushed all the way up, so I could definitely have maybe gone a touch softer on the fork, although at the time I didn't notice it, to be honest. Had that shock up on this new TR. You've got that switch so you can run it from either linear or progressive. I left that in progressive the whole time, and the bike did feel really balanced. Like I said, I can maybe run those forks a little bit softer. So one of the features on Scott bikes is that twin lock lever system, so it's up on the bar and that adjusts the fork and the shock at the same time, so it reduces the travel but also adjusts the damping of that shock at the same time. And I definitely use that on the transitions. There were some big ones, you know, hour and a half of pedaling where I'd stick it in full lockout on those fire roads, or in the middle in that traction control for pedaling on maybe single track climbs. But I was surprised how much I actually used that in the stages. So my left arm was doing the drop post an awful lot, but there was quite a few times actually where I went to that middle setting. There's some pretty hard work climbs where it was really slow, you're really trying to fight up these single track climbs, and I was going into that middle system just to really keep the BB up and make that bike pedal a little bit better, and then flick it back into that fully open when it started tipping back down again. A couple more changes just for personal preference. I've got those ERGON GD1 grips, the downhill grip. I like it, we've got that flange on the inside. I think it does help just in case you do slide, but I think they look cool as well. Also that CRANKBROTHERS HIGHLINE drop seat post and the ERGON saddle. I ran the big water bottle, so the CAMELBAK GMM water bottles, the 710. You can see it's slightly longer, just because it was a super hot day, and there were sometimes quite big transitions, so time in between being able to fill it up. I used my POC bib shorts with the stash bits in them, so in there I carried 2 bars, 2 gels, but also some of those ice tonic tabs, so when I filled that up with water I could drop one in. That worked really well. Only thing with that is it fizzes up, so you find that eventually you have to let it off, let a bit of steam off and it'll squirt out. So I've got a few sticky bits of fluid left on my bike that I'm sure that'll clean off. You can see the bike is still dusty from the weekend. And you can see some of the toll that racing takes on your bike. I fell off only once actually in practice, and the bike just gets thrashed. Definitely more through racing than any other riding. So you see a little scratch on the fork there. It doesn't affect it, to be honest, it's not deep enough to really notice, but definitely a few scratches in my paintwork. My rear wheel's got a flat spot and it's definitely got a bit of side-to-side motion. That's definitely trueable, it's just not looking quite as new as the bike was before that race. Other than those bits, so I've got my tools under there. I've also got a power link. I've just gaffer taped that up to my front brake hose. So if my chain does snap quickly, I can get my chain tool out, get 2 clean ends and stick that on. Hopefully it shouldn't take me too long. Cosmetically, the bike's taken a little bit of a knock then, but mechanically it's all pretty good. All I really need to do now is give that bike a really good clean down, give it a full check over. I need to true that rear wheel, but I'm sure I'll get that straight again. That dent I'm not worried about, it's pulled out, it's nice and straight. The rear tyre has taken quite a bit of wear. It was super dry, super hard work on that. For riding, that's absolutely fine, but if I was getting the bike ready to race again, I think what I'd do is just stick that front tyre on the back, stick a new one on the front, and really that's it. So what are my top tips for getting your bike ready for enduro racing? Personally, I would say always go a little bit harder with your tyres than you do normally to try and take away some of that risk of puncturing, because you're going to be riding tired as well, which can make you heavier on the bike. Learn to look after your bike if you don't know already how to fix things like punctures with the tubeless plug, you know, any of those common issues you're going to find out on the trail like bolts coming loose. So really try and learn to work on your bike. And then finally, I would say try and spend as much time on that bike before the race as you can, because I definitely could have tweaked my suspension a little bit better. I felt I was a tiny bit underprepared. Those pros, you know, in the off season and before the start of the season really spend a lot of time riding that bike and getting that bike completely nailed down with the finer details for those races. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to GMBN if you haven't done already. And if you want to see a couple more videos from the EWS, click over there for the pro bike check of Sam Hill's bike, a very cool custom bike. And up there for the diary of me actually doing the race. Give a thumbs up if you like my bike.